So what made you choose the
I was
pistachio?
actually gonna start.
Well, no, I want to know.
Dude, the color was fire. I don't care what anybody says. And nobody had it, and it was great. And I was one of the first, because that color came out. I was one of the first ones to do it. But we'll get more into that a little bit. But there's definitely days where like I look at my car and I just don't know if I made the right decision or not on wrapping it, or if I should have just painted it.
Okay.
You know, you always have your pros and cons to everything, and I went the wrap route because I needed body work done, and I was just like, you know what, I really don't want to pay for any of that, so I just kind of did the body work and then wrapped it. I don't know. There's definitely pros to cons in both. I feel that wrap is definitely more temporary versus your paint being more permanent. So it really comes down to if you're set on a color or not.
So this is the second time you've wrapped your
Yeah,
car,
I've wrapped
right?
my car twice now. And again, I don't know if I have any regret for doing it, but there's definitely times where I've looked at it and just go, maybe if I just did the body work and the paint, I would probably be a little bit happier.
So would you do it a third time?
No, I've already said that. Like my car is in desperate need of a new wrap. Like I think, what are we at now? 8 years going with the Gloss Light Pistachio. And to be honest, I don't know how it's even lasted this long. Like if you look out like real up close, like you'll see where like the vinyl's fading. You'll see where it's like cracking and just like flying off the car as I'm driving it, which is every time I look at it, I go, oh, there's something new missing, you know, like.
So what is it? The life on them is like 5-6 years.
So when I did it, it really comes down to like my car is outside all year round. The salt, the sunlight is always getting hit with it. It doesn't sit in a garage, so it definitely lowered that time.
Okay.
Which I'd say, what do they give wraps? Like your probably your cons to it. You're probably going to look at what 3 to 4, maybe 5 years you'll get out of it. Versus, don't get me wrong, they have some like new stuff now, that colored PPV stuff, which I think has 7 or 8 years lifespan that they're calling for. But I feel like it's too new to really make that assumption yet. You got to wait 10 years before you can see really how long it's lasted.
Well, yeah, if it hasn't been on the market long
Like,
enough,
you know
how do you
what I
have
mean?
market
Yeah, exactly.
research?
Like you don't
lasts?
have really any research to go about like how long it's going to last. Like they can claim 7 to 8 years, but who knows? You know, it really comes down to if the car's outside all the time, like how mine is.
Now, leaving it on longer, do you run into any concerns where peeling of like undercoat or the clear coat underneath? Does anything happen to the?
So this is probably definitely another con to it. When I went to go rewrap my car, like the paint was not good underneath. So we went to go take off on the driver's side door, and I did peel up pretty much all of the clear coat when we went to take it off. And like, don't get me wrong, we went through the proper steps. We heated it up. We made sure that it was nice and, warm when we went to take it off. But I had some like clear coat coming up on like the corner of the door that I really didn't address before wrapping it. And once we went to take it off, it just took it all off with it. So going back, if I were to have to take off the wrap now, it would probably be impossible. And I'd probably have to take like a sander to it. Oof. Like I'd really like the roof it's locked on there.
Get one of those nice like eraser wheels and just go to town, just taking layer.
Dude, it's a tough one. It's been on there for a while, and again, sitting outside all year round with all the different elements and the sun just constantly beating on it, like never in shade. Like it's gonna take your toll on it. But I guess it really comes down to longevity of it. Is if you're garage kept, if you're on parked outside. I definitely feel like if it's garage kept, it's gonna last a lot longer.
Of course.
But again, that always gives me back to that. Should I have done the paint versus, doing vinyl? So I don't know. What do you think on that? Like, what's your opinion?
So actually,
on that?
before we jump into that, I had a question. So for me, I've always done like small pieces, like vinyl on like trim piece or an accessory or something like that. So a lot of times on like interior panels or anywhere you have like abutment, you'll start to see like panel, like part of the vinyl raise or contact where they rub together as you get vibration from going down the road. Does that happen on the exterior of the vehicles? Do you ever see something coming up or
you'll
any
definitely
problems with
see
that?
it, especially, like I've always saw it because I've smacked my front bumper everywhere. I don't know how to raise up the car and physically drive it. So I always tend to be smacking the bumper around to where like the clips will break and like something's rubbing up and where it shouldn't. And like that's when I'll start to see like, pieces come up or like rubbing on the fenders, on the corners, on like the tires, like, because again, I drive low. For no reason when I have air ride and I can just go and raise up. But no, I want to be cool, Mr. Cool Guy over here. But yeah, I've seen definitely if you look at like my fenders where I'm rubbing, like you'll see where it's like starting to peel up or like where I put like clear vinyl to try to hold it down. But I'll tell you this: when I first did it, so you got pros and cons to everything. Again, like, oh, I could have done the body shop, but the body shop work could have been, shot anyway. It really comes down to you get what you pay for when it comes down to that. But
that's why I'm a big person when it comes to paint. Like I prefer the paint method for that reason, is because you're going to put the time and energy in to have that base product be, you put all your time, what is it?
For sure.
Put 100% of the time into the prep work. You come out with 1,000% product or whatever it is.
100%.
So for me, you see a lot of that. They'll put that extra work in because the car is going to get painted. And I hate to say it, with vinyl, you can almost say, I can kind of cheat here and just use filler and then just throw vinyl over it and no one will ever know. And to me, that kind of irks me.
Yeah.
I think that when it comes to like our hot rodding, our customization of cars, like we should be making a product that is not only accessible, but just like quality. Like, we expect something out of it. When I go to a body shop, I don't want the Mako paint job for an enthusiast standpoint.
Of course, but that's again where you come into your pros and cons to both right now. And I'm going to say it because it really does come down to both and prep work. And you can get a real shitty paint job just as much as you can get a real shitty vinyl work job.
Correct.
I was fortunate enough to have really good friends that were into vinyl. Voodoo Vinyl, shout out. I miss you, bud. Yeah, and the prep work that he did for it, and he treated it like it was an art versus I've seen some hack jobs, man, where you come in and you see corners popping up right away. You see bubbles. You see people over.
Oh, no, but they had a rush to get the job done.
Again,
it's always the excuse.
That's always the excuse. Like, oh, we had to rush it to get ready for the show. It's like, why? You could have taken the extra 20 to 30 minutes, even an hour, just to make sure that it was prepped and done right. It would have been worth it. But when I first did my vinyl, I will say it, and I know I'm probably going to get roasted for this, but like I've always had people asking if it was paint. Like if a vinyl job is done correctly and properly, and when it's prepped correctly, that thing could look just as good as paint. But you also got to look at what colors, of course, you're doing, because I'd always stuck with like the pastel colors, which was I felt better with vinyl to make it look a little bit more like paint. Because when you go into those real deep, glossy and metallic-y vinyls, you can just tell it's vinyl from a mile away.
They don't have the depth that
don't
paint does.
Exactly. Like when you get into your paint, you get those nice thick clear coat, and you just see that depth. And when it's all polished, nice and beautiful, there's nothing that beats it. But that's why I stuck with always like the pastel colors, and I think that's why I did that pistachio, because it could appear as paint without being paint.
I feel like with the vinyls, you can go two ways. You can go with the glosses, like you have like a pastel gloss or something like that, where it doesn't have a ton of metal flake, doesn't have a ton of character to it. Or you go to the extreme other end, where you're talking something unique, either a printed vinyl where it's got like a camouflage pattern or something like that, or like even the brushed metals or something like that, where those were popular for a while.
Those were. Because
it doesn't require that clear coat depth that you would need with like if you did a really nice candy paint.
Exactly.
So
man, a nice
candy with
paint.
or a pearl where you're picking up a ton of light and ton of shadow in the paint. It's really hard to capture that same thing with a vinyl.
100%, and I'd agree with that. But again, like it really comes down to the color choices you're doing. Like there's so many different brands out there now. The colored PPF that's new, that really looks good. And can definitely be mistaken as paint if it's done correctly, and you don't really see much of,
But it's also a thicker material, so you might be able to cheat a little, and that's where you're getting that depth from, because the color might be so saturated through the material that's where you're seeing that.
100%. But one thing that I feel always people don't understand is how much work it really takes to vinyl a car. Like you do got to take apart the whole car. You do got to vinyl each piece. You do have to put it all back together and make sure you're not having any gaps or, So like it's not cheap. Like people think like, oh, it's vinyl, it's cheap. Material alone, you're spending about $700 to $1,200 on just material.
So all in, so without any body work, let's say, if you were to go today and say, I'm done with the pistachio. So what we're talking, $500 to $1,000 to take it off, $500 to $1,000 to take off. What's
to
there?
To be honest, with for my car specifically, which I don't really want to give quotes on because I don't think any vinyl guy would want to take it off. I think the guy would look and be like, nah, man, it's just not worth my time or money to take this off type of thing. But who knows? Again, anywhere from $500 to $1,000, you're probably going to get charged to remove vinyl. But more just saying, like, even just to get your whole car done, especially if you have like a truck, like you're going to spend anywhere from $4,500 and up.
Okay.
You're looking at even those new PPFs with the colored PPF. That's probably about $7 or $8 to do a full car, and it's like right there. You're like, I'm getting close to my paint job price.
The problem is paint jobs have also gone up. I mean, that's the issue is
100%.
everything has skyrocketed. But
100%.
But just to find a quality artist. When I say paint jobs, as I said, I don't want the Mako job, but to find a good quality. Let's say hot rodder. Let's go with and go into that category where they're going to do a really nice blown out paint job. You're talking $12,000 to $15,000 these days, and that's not counting if they do have to do paint correction to like body work or straighten out panels, or if you have rust, or all of a sudden that bill goes up.
That goes into you get what you pay for. You're going to get a final product that's going to look amazing. That's going to last you a long time. That's going to last you longer than 3 to 5, 6, 7 years.
As long as you're willing
take
to
care of it.
as
long as you maintain it.
Yeah, you have to fix your scratches. You have to sit there and do all your polish work, and that actually upkeep. That's a big thing too. Is there a difference? Have you seen a difference in your upkeep schedule
100%.
for your car?
100%. So with the vinyl, like it's easier to clean. You can do your waterless washes if it's just light. Don't get me wrong. I have waxed it, just to give it that shine back, which has helped. But versus paint, like you got to wash that in order so you're not going to see
clay bar,
scratches, compound. You want to ceramic coat it. People do ceramic coat vinyl, which I always thought was weird. But people do it, and apparently it does help and make the vinyl last longer. But that goes your pros and cons to everything, though. What I think one huge pro for the vinyl versus your paint, you get it done 20 times, even more than that, 200 times faster, because you can get a full car wrapped in 3, 4, 5 days.
Yeah.
Versus you're dropping off a car to get full strip, prep. You're probably not going to see that car for 2 years, Like, they'll tell you 2 months, you'll get it done, but then, this came up. You're not going to see that car for 2 years.
I mean, that is the nature of the beast when it comes to something of that scale.
And I think that's why a lot of people do go the vinyl, and I think that's why I did too as well, because it was my daily driver. I'm like, I had so many rock chips because I had a body shop repaint the whole front and like fill like my license plate holes. And it was just such a shitty job that like after like 2 or 3 years, like the rock chips were just coming so easy. And I remember I went to Bureaucracy in 2015. This was the last time the car was ever gray, was ever the OE color. I drove down to Bureaucracy. I got there and I looked at my front bumper, and the amount of rock chips, I was like, oh man, this is bad. I got home because it was a solid 8-hour drive, and I was like, this is when it was like really like, like you saw, like you could legit touch it, and like paint was like peeling off.
There's just like rocks sticking out. You have like a texture.
Not even rocks sticking out. Like rocks were just taking away chunks of the paint. So like I remember on our way back from Canada, I got home and I remember looking at the front bumper, and like there was like solid like big holes missing, and I was just like, yo, this like F that. I'm just gonna sand it down, vinyl wrap it, and luckily again I had friends that helped me out a lot, So I was definitely fortunate enough to have that who had friends doing the doing the vinyl work for me, and me helping, of course, like taking apart the car and everything like that. But yeah, that car, oh boy. But I think that's really what your big perk is, what your big pro on your vinyl versus your paint is, that you can get it done 100 times faster and get your car back within 3-4 days, fully a different color. Versus your paint that's going to take a lot longer.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more on that. At first, I thought your car was actually Plasti Dip, so it's a good thing it wasn't Plasti. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, again, like I said, if you saw both colors, man, when they first came out, everyone always used to say to me at car shows, like, "Is that paint?" And I'd be like, "No, dude, it's vinyl." Like, I always was a little shocked when people asked, but when it's a proper job and it's done right, It really
No,
it
and I
definitely
agree
helps.
that it can get a little hard to differentiate when depending on the quality of the job and things like that. Now they're starting to do the jams, so you don't even run into the problem where
Again,
you used to
yeah,
have the
that
different colored
I was
jams and
just
all
gonna
that. That's
say
all
that
going
too.
away though.
I
They
think
found solutions.
I think I was fortunate enough because I had a dark gray car that like it helped with the door jams versus like it being white or red or like a blue, and like once you open the door or pop your hood, like you see that.
Yeah, a pistachio green car with blue door jams would
Exactly,
stand out
right?
slightly.
Even red. That
Yeah,
was
oh my gosh.
Christmas tree over there. But yeah, dude. Like I don't know. I think there's definitely pros and cons to both. Of course, cost is definitely a big pro when it comes to vinyl. But even though it's not cheap, I think vinyl can take a little bit of a more beating. But again, that comes down to your prep work and your body work too. If you got a thick clear coat on there, I feel like that thick clear coat is going to be a lot more sustainable to a rock.
But now, I was gonna say, if you end up getting like say something drags on the vinyl, and you get that raised, the texture I'm talking about, where it looks like it got gouged. Let's say. You have to peel that whole panel. There is no fixing that one spot.
See, again, you have ghetto ways of doing it. I've definitely done it. Like I've cut like little pieces, kind of like acting like touch-up paint, and just like kind of like just getting it in there. Like if you look close enough, you see the seam, so like it. But like from far away or in a photo, like you're not gonna tell.
Well, it's a 10 feet away. You can't tell the difference.
But there's also that's another big pro when it comes down to your vinyl. Like say if like I had to rewrap my bumper, it was done in 2 hours. Versus if I had to drop off my bumper to get done at a paint shop, it's going to take
a couple
2
weeks.
months, Like it's going to take a lot longer.
So I really think that it comes down to you're kind of getting what you pay for.
100%.
I mean, the better the quality of the vinyl, the better the workmanship that's done, the better that you're going to have an end result. And I think the same goes for paint.
100%. I've seen some hack job paint jobs too, man. And like, dude, it's
too many to count.
Yeah. And like, don't get me wrong. Like you can always say like, oh, I found somebody who could do it at a better price. But like, you're going to get what you pay for.
Yeah. A lot of times that's where it is.
Horrid vinyl work. And I've seen horrid paint jobs. It really is just, I definitely think there's pros and cons to everything. I'm big on that. There's definitely pros and cons to both paint and vinyl. But it really comes down to what you're looking for. If you're looking for a temporary color change versus your permanent color change, or like, permanent paint period. Because, once you do it, like you're not going to go and do it again. Yeah. Once you paint something, you're not going to go.
You've made that decision. And
versus vinyl, you're like, oh, I'm very indecisive. I want to change this thing every 3, 4, 5 years. Like I want to peel off this vinyl and do a whole new color and come out different. But again, really comes down to what you're looking for.
So, most important question: what are we doing for lunch?
We'll talk about that in a minute. We'd love to get everybody's opinion. Drop down in the comments what you think. If you would vinyl your car, if you would rather paint your car, your pros and cons, if anything that we missed. And again, don't forget to like and subscribe. Appreciate you guys. Later.